this is Angie Girl, and this is my PowerPoint presentation explaining why Henry Emily's design on the Silver Eyes is mid at best and bad at worst. Let's define the criteria we're working with here. For the sake of the 5-paragraph essay format, we'll be dealing with 3 metrics to measure good design. Is the design recognizable? Does it relay information about the character? And is it accurate to the original text? In this persuasive essay, I will attempt to prove to you that this design for Henry fails in all 3 ways, my counterpoint for what could have saved it, and my opinions regarding the design from the encyclopedia. It'll even out to be about 5 paragraphs, don't even worry about it. I should have been writing a real essay instead of this, but who cares? Criteria 1. Is this design recognizable? No. My man is out here looking like Stanley Parable, but at least that was part of the meaning of the game, I think. I haven't played it. Henry is depicted as a clean-cut guy with a white shirt, and that's about it. Overly plain generic designs can work if used intentionally for the sake of story, like Emmett Lego Movie, but in this context it just looks unfinished, considering it probably was. Criteria 2. Does this design relay information about the character? Absolutely not. Be glad I only have 5 minutes for this video, or we'd be here all day. The way Henry is described in the first book is less with physical descriptions and more with emotional adjectives, and this works really well in the novel's favor. Henry is described as a sort of shadowy figure at the edges of Charlie's memory. He isn't even officially named until chapter 9. As Charlie goes back to her old house, she remembers, quote, burying herself in his flannel shirts and the smell of grease and hot metal and him. The book wastes no time in establishing Henry as an inventor type. This design is a generic office worker. There's no indication he spends any time at all in the workshop, and if anything, having a crisp white shirt gives the opposite impression, that he's clean and well put together. This is a man who is so whimsyless he would kill by a combination of guilt and depression, and there is absolutely none of that seen anywhere in this design. Why does that one picture of him feature him wearing a bow tie? This man could not have set up the pizzeria Simfire. I don't know who this man is. Criteria 3. Is this accurate to the original text? In the original text, Henry is mentioned to have a flannel shirt, which could have been the bare minimum, but that's far from the worst offender. See, in chapter 7, I think, we find out that since the MCI was never solved, the parents in town started looking for someone to blame. The someone they ended up with was Henry. Henry was almost arrested, but because there was no evidence, Officer Burke held off and started investigating Afton instead. Afton was able to avoid suspicion because he was so friendly to the adults in town that no one suspected him. Henry, just based on appearances, looks more like a potential murderer than the actual murderer. Henry has gone through a lot of pain, and he is not handling it healthily. He is so mentally unwell that, quote, he always seemed to be off in another world, some part of his mind thinking about his mechanical creatures, even when holding a conversation with the weather of the kids' soccer games. There was something off about Henry, something almost shell-shocked. Does this man look remotely unwell at all? Does this clean-cut, perfectly average guy look like someone the public would turn against for being so naturally suspicious? No, he does not! And that alone, being incompatible with a major plot point, makes this a bad design. I would even argue that Dave Miller, as awkward and off-putting and generally creepy as he is, fits these 3 criteria better than Henry by a long shot, but that's an entirely separate PowerPoint I'll be making in the near future. So, what would I have done differently instead? This comic was made on a horrific time crunch, but I do think adding the flannel stripes for someone who only appears on like 3 pages could have probably been okay. But if I could only make one minor change to this design, it would be giving him glasses. Specifically, adding glasses that have thick lenses and a sheen that make them impossible to see through. Obviously he's got a face, but you never rightly see it until the reveal where we get to see William and Dave's photo side by side, visually showing how the only time the reader gets the perspective of someone who was an adult during the MCI is when Officer Burke is looking at the photograph. I have a lot to say about this page, so don't be surprised if someday in the future I end up redrawing it. Making it so that Henry's face is never properly seen would give him that feeling of being emotionally distant that the text captures so nicely. One last point, though. Oh, what about the encyclopedia design? Well, it's an improvement. Not a fan of the style of beard, and the overalls probably should have been gray instead of blue, but at least he actually looks like an engineer. He fits the 3 criteria listed in his essay a lot better, and so scientifically I would consider it a better design. I was originally going to have a section about Bluey capsules and how that impacted most of Henry's fan interpretations, but that is beyond the scope of this video, so TLDR, a lot of people's fan designs have the common ancestor of a design that was used in a fan comic called Bluey capsules, and people who didn't read the comic probably absorbed their ideas from other people who did, Plus, this general idea of trying to make Henry look like the opposite of Fannin Afton, who he himself looks nothing the way he's described in the books anyway. Um, but yeah, the people who draw Silver Eyes Henry seems to be a minority. I don't have particularly strong opinions on this, honestly. I get excited when I see a design that makes the original look interesting, but it's more that I get happy when I see something I like rather than being upset when I see something I don't. I do think we as a fandom need to design less kind hearted dad looking Henrys in favor of more autistic and depressed looking Henrys, but at the end of the day, it's all silly fan art anyway. Thanks for watching. Bye, people! And I am definitely going to be making more silly PowerPoints in the future.